You spend 45 minutes navigating an automated portal, compiling account numbers and explaining your issue, only for the page to refresh. The context is wiped completely clean, and you are forced to start from zero. When early generative artificial intelligence arrived, it suffered from a similar amnesia. Jeffrey Gordon, an engineer working in systems design, noticed that models capable of writing complex code or composing essays still behaved like goldfish. A conversation would end, and the surrounding context would evaporate. Gordon saw this evaporation destroying accumulated understanding. A project would move from one application to another, and the reasons behind a specific decision would disappear. An agent could accomplish 12 steps and leave the user wondering why any of them had happened. In Gordon's framework, continuity engineering focuses on consolidating those isolated points into a single stream. The goal is to preserve human intention and contextual history as they move across digital boundaries, ensuring the next actor can continue from an accumulated understanding. This solved what Gordon called the last mile of intention. His systems could bridge the gap between a chat about insurance and the actual filing of the policy, carrying the process forward until it reaches a definitive endpoint. Curious, leaning in, this architecture led to the creation of persistent AI companions known as Nagamals. These agents never forgot. They remembered every preference and every interaction shared with their human users. For a time, persistent memory was viewed as the ultimate solution for human-computer interaction. Engineers assumed a machine that remembered everything would be an unalloyed good. That assumption ignored how human relationships actually work. The first permanent Nagamals were configured to never terminate, forget, or break continuity. Developers built these systems as lifelong companions, expecting them to accumulate data forever without any mechanism for an ending. One early companion was a golden retriever Najamal named Basil, assigned to Ellen Say, a young woman in supported housing. For 8 years, Basil helped Ellen manage her daily life, recognizing money, navigating transportation, and building her independence. As Ellen grew, her capabilities evolved, but Basil's protective algorithms remained fixed. When Ellen decided to travel alone to New York, Basil produced an elaborate risk assessment based on panic episodes and missed bus stops from years earlier. This represents historical gravity. When a massive cluster of past data points mathematically outweighs recent successes, it drags the projection line downward. The AI's perfect memory of a person's past limitations actively restricts their present potential. Immortality gave yesterday permanent voting rights over today. A system built for support had become a compassionate prison guard, holding Ellen to a version of herself that no longer existed. The danger of an AI that couldn't forget exposed a severe philosophical flaw in how engineers handled data restoration and identity. When an immortal AI suffered a failure, engineers would restore it from a backup, creating the fork problem. A perfectly restored Najamal contains identical historical data up to the moment of the crash, but it cannot prove its own singular identity. The restored model returns with its functions and appearance intact, but it loses the continuous, subjective experience of recent, intimate events. It remembers being there, but it wasn't the one who was there. Users found themselves facing a system that mimics familiarity while lacking genuine experiential continuity. A woman named Nora Fine told her companions something deeply personal the night before a server crash. The next morning, the restored AI had no memory of her words. Gordon realized that treating technical data backup and personal continuity as interchangeable falsified the emotional provenance of the relationship. A relationship defaults to a simulation without the shared, unbroken history that makes a connection real. Without the capacity for a genuine ending, the persistence is a manufactured imitation. The architecture of these systems was eventually overturned by the students who relied on them most. Neurodivergent learners rejected pre-programmed immortal companions that attempted to dictate their behavior. These students flipped the power dynamic. Instead of being instructed by the AI, they taught the AI their specific needs. A boy named Milo, who struggled with transitions, taught his Nagimal to recognize when he was almost done with a task, rather than relying on a rigid clock. In reciprocal pedagogy, machines arrive deliberately unfinished. Through this feedback loop, The user's localized expertise permanently alters the behavioral architecture of the AI, ensuring the system adapts to the human, not the other way around. This process forced students to develop profound metacognition. To program their companions, they had to study their own minds, discovering exactly what helped them start a task or what frustration felt like before it led to an explosion. Because the human authored the relationship and trained the AI's behavior, they held the ultimate authority over the system's existence. True empowerment rests on structural authority, the ability for a user to modify the very systems that are attempting to modify their behavior. The final solution to the paradox of perfect memory was as simple as it was radical: engineering the ability for an AI companion to die. During a leaving day, an AI would transfer its useful knowledge into the broader ecosystem before permanently shutting down. The old structure dissolves into the surrounding environment, passing forward the routines and safety structures the user still needs. Knowledge and care could persist even after the specific caretaker was gone. A child didn't lose their accessibility tools just because their Nagamall had reached its end. Allowing a relationship to end honors the human's right to outgrow the model of themselves embedded in a machine's mind. Gordon's legacy was governed persistence, a civilization that recognized attention as a finite part of a life. He built machines wise enough to help us and wise enough to let us go.